Preparing live stream.
Yeah, you got it, Aish. It's going. It's happening.
We made it.
Woo.
Apologies to everybody. I don't even know if this is actually live. I need to kind of go in and make sure this is happening. But some of us have technical difficulties, but we have sorted it, and we are all here. A lovely group. I'm now going to be quiet and hand it over to Joe. And do all the other technical bits behind the scene.
Yeah.
To have a very nice conversation, a useful conversation, and I'm going to mute myself.
Thank you, Ash. Yeah, welcome everyone. Sorry, we had a bit of a technical glitch. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. So tonight's conversation is around the miracle within the miracle question. And we have Eve with us. And I was really interested in, because I've read a lot about how the miracle question came about. But Eve was there. So how did it come about, Eve? What was the discussion within the group in Milwaukee at the time?
Well, I think that a lot of people aren't aware of how influenced we were by Milton Erickson. I should say how influenced Steve was. Steve was such an Erickson fan that he would wear purple clothes all the time because Erickson wore purple all the time. So with the crystal ball technique that Erickson used, I think that led to the thought of, well, how can we do something like that without copying it? And so a miracle instead of a, well, what would you like to see in the crystal ball? What would, if a miracle happened? And that's how it happened. You know, it very much came out of that, not out of somebody saying, how can we think of a question, a future question that would stimulate hopeful futures, you know? Yeah.
Okay, so because obviously from what I've understood, it was almost like a surreptitious event where a client said, oh, there were so many problems, 23 different issues, and she said, oh, it would take a miracle for this to happen. And then someone went with, oh, Eve's shaking her head, guys. Hang on. It didn't happen that way, Eve.
No way, no way, no way.
Okay. So in terms of the miracle question itself and the way it was worded, when did you start to use it in your practice, and what difference did it make to your clients?
Well, I mean, we all thought that's a good future-oriented question. But to be honest with you, some of us used the word miracle, and I tended to adapt the question to the type of client I was working with. You know, sometimes you just get a sense about a person that they're not into miracles. So you would say, so if you could, if all your dreams would come true, or if you could have anything you wanted in the future, you know, we weren't very religious about using the word miracle. And I noticed in the literature that came in the years later that this became a thing, you know, like it became a magic thing that we have to learn how to use effectively. And, you know, I'm sure there are people who disagree with me, but this is how we experienced it at the beginning.
So let me ask, Dorothea, let us know who you are and how you use the miracle question, I guess.
Okay, so I have two roles. I'm a SFBT therapist, but I'm also a hospital hypnotherapist. And I use the miracle question with hospital clients, inpatients. And a bit like Eve just said, I'm careful sometimes about whether I actually use the word miracle. It's still that question very often. But miracle has other connotations in the world of cancer care, and I'm usually working in cancer care where people will very often say, I'm hoping for a miracle for you. I'm hoping that the chemo turns out to be a miracle cure. And so occasionally I will avoid the word miracle because the connotations just aren't right. But I do ask that preferred future question, even when people are having palliative chemo. You know, they're not, and the chemotherapy isn't expected to cure their cancer. I will still ask it.
Yeah. Right. So, but you may not use the word miracle itself.
Not always, no. I mean,
How do we get a sense that the miracle might not be the right word for the client that we're working with?
Oh, actually, I think it's nothing to do with my brains here. I think it's very, I'd like to take some credit, but no. I think it's very clear, very quickly from talking with the client about best hopes. It's actually fairly unusual that anybody's best hopes are in any way unrealistic. You know, somebody might just gone, you know. And, you know, to that I would just reply, gosh, if that was in my power, if that was in my gift, I absolutely would I give that to you. Bear in mind it's not. What can I do? But yeah, I think it's very clear from people's best hopes very quickly as to whether that would not be a useful term. It's you know, all sorts of bits of conversation come up in that very early bit that give you very clear clues from people telling me that very recently they wanted to throw a gratitude journal out of the window. I thought, I'm probably not going to use the word miracle here. So yeah, it's not down to me. Clients are pretty clear.
Is that word miracle because it's almost out of, when a miracle happens, it's almost a divine event, so it's nothing within our control? Is that sometimes why we might shy away from it?
Occasionally it's that, although a couple of years ago I had a client who was in a religious order and actually did use the word miracle. Then they were quite comfortable with you know, the concept of what I meant and what we meant in, you know, that we weren't referring to anything religious. I think it's really when other people, in other person perspective, times when other people are having difficulty with managing how to manage this horrendous event in their life, and also having to manage their family and friends' expectations of battle terminology, you know, you keep fighting, people who are struggling with other personal relationships, managing other people's pain, are less likely to want to use the miracle question, to use the word miracle, the miracle question, but to use that word because they've heard it already. You know, people have come in and said, I heard about, you know, whatever the latest thing was that someone heard that helps with cancer. And that,
right, like a miracle cure almost.
Yeah, and that's when I think, whoa, I'm going to use that word here.
Marcos, what's your experience of using the miracle question? Do you use it often?
Kind of. I work with the indigenous communities here in Bolivia, South America. So I'm trying to, of course, to listen to people, to listen how is their own style of dreaming with the better situations, with better things. And I tend to use it, but I don't use it, or I tend to change it when I think I'm becoming an authority. So it's very special to respect how people could design their own well-being. And every time is a surprise. So we have many rituals here. So I try to adapt the miracle questions to take people to invite people to describe a situation where the rituals has already an impact on their lives. So that's how I try to manage it.
So you relate the miracle question to certain rictuals that are prevalent in that culture.
Yeah. Imagine that you already did this ritual and you came true or something like that, and or a miracle happened. And you were able to do the ritual with your father, with your family, with the priest, I don't know. And you could talk to the mountains, and the mountains will allow you to be happy again. How would you notice that? How would it be?
Yeah. Wow. Mr. Greene, sir, our research expert. I guess what the miracle question, how is it useful? What's the research behind it? What is it about that question that, I guess, because often we get a vague best hope. We don't really, it's kind of vague-ish. But for me, the miracle question almost makes it possible. It crystallizes it. It makes it. It's almost like when you try to take a picture and it's out of focus, and you keep focusing it, and then you get something clear, and that's where I think the miracle question helps. So, what's your thoughts on the miracle question, Gil, and its origins? Or
well, I want to sort of build on something Eve was talking about. That it sounds like Eve was saying that in the early days they weren't rigid about using it. That the main purpose was to be future oriented, and there are a number of different ways of getting clients to be future oriented. I mean, my experience with clients is they're thinking more about the problem rather than thinking about what would they rather have instead. And the miracle question is a great way of getting people future oriented, but you can use a scaling question for that, or variations of the miracle question. Back in the late 70s, mid to late 70s, I got quite a bit of training, postgraduate training in transactional analysis of Gestalt therapy and something called redecision therapy, the integration of it. And in that they emphasize contracting. So that involves what's the problem and what's your desired goal when you no longer have the problem. And somewhere in there, somebody in my training introduced the idea of a magic wand. And so at that time, I was working in outpatient psychiatry at the Veterans Hospital in Nashville, Tennessee, my hometown. And I found using the magic wand question very effective. And this was before solution-focused therapy had been created. I was also learning the Mental Research Institute approach, the MRI approach to strategic therapy at that time as well. And so I found that was a very good way of getting people future oriented, and then the follow-up questions. And so for people who, for some reason, like Dorethea was saying, how you just get a sense for some people it won't work, or sometimes you ask it and it just falls flat. Then what are you going to do instead? Well, you need to fall back on that. So you need to have other ways of getting at that. I remember in one of our many conversations in the past, Aisha was saying how in Turkish culture, a miracle question just wouldn't work. So I found when it works, it is magical. Now, in terms of the research, I'm not aware of any actual controlled outcome studies on the miracle question per se, but there's just a ton of research on goals, the effectiveness of goal setting, getting people future oriented. Without question, that is, in my mind, a common therapeutic factor in why it works. Now I have to say, share this with you. I came up in a small study with my then colleague at Ohio State University College of Social Work, Mo-Yi Lee. We were doing a little study at a community mental health center with a team of therapists and supervisors. And the focus was using a 6-session protocol for using a solution-focused approach with clients diagnosed with depression. And as we were planning the research, we were asking ourselves, is there something unique about people with depression that where we might need to modify what we do, solution-focused approach? And about that time, I was reading a book, article about depression being a disorder of power. That when someone who was clinically depressed, they felt powerless, didn't have a sense of personal agency. So in that conversation, sitting around a table with the group, we decided to modify the miracle question into the dream question. So it's really an adaptation of the miracle question, because we saw that people with the studies have found that, as a general rule, people who come for therapy do not have a sense of personal agency. They do not have a sense of internal locus of control. So they feel like factors outside of them are to account for whether things get better or not. And so in sitting around talking about it, we thought, well, you know, the miracle question is something that's outside the person, external to them, but dreams it's from within. It's our own creation. And just as Milt Erickson was the inspiration for the miracle question, Erickson also used dreams in his therapy with clients. He would sometimes say at the end of a session, perhaps between now and the next time we get together, the answer will come to you in a dream. So we just modified the miracle question into the dream question with the clients in the study, and found it very, very effective. But the miracle question, it's a go-to. I mean, when it works, it seems almost magical or miraculous.
So, Matt is, we employ him for some reason. I'm still not clear on that yet.
I do the washing up. I make
He
good cups.
He makes a good cup of tea, guys.
I've got on purpose. Yeah.
Oh, don't start her off.
Okay.
Put yourself on mute. That's it. So, Matt, you've experienced the miracle question yourself as someone who hadn't used the approach before, and now obviously using the miracle question with your clients.
Yeah.
What's your take on what you've heard, and what is the power behind this question?
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with what Gil was saying there. When it works, it does seem miraculous. It seems otherworldly. It's kind of like, wow, the power here. But yeah, also it doesn't work for everyone. There's, as Dorethea was saying, sometimes you get a feeling, no, this isn't this isn't the way to go, kind of thing. So yeah, but I think so. A few years back, my first introduction to solution focus was actually coming for a training here, just upstairs where Aisha's sitting. And I was working with young people in a hospital just down the road from us in London, where it's one of the most highest rates of violent crime in the country. So a lot of young people coming in with stab wounds and gunshot wounds, and so we were trained in solution focus brief therapy here at FBS, and I think maybe the most talkative of my colleagues, and I was kind of chosen. No, was I not? I don't know.
Yeah, no.
And so I put myself forward for all the what would you call it? I was basically the guinea pig. I was showing all my colleagues, like Joe and I were showing how it could work, and I remember it so clearly, being asked the miracle question, and the impact. I am lucky enough to have felt it in that miraculous sense where I was describing the most mundane parts of my morning, just in a slightly different way, and it started as a miracle has happened. What do you notice? How do you know? But very quickly it became clear that my miracle was so attainable for me. It was, whether it didn't feel before asking the question, it didn't feel it would be, but by the end of it, it was so clear the impact it would have on so many different aspects on my life and and those around me, and so I've been a real strong champion for it. Now I work here, after my training, I've done more training, and after all the hours of practice I've had here at FBS, I use it. I try and use it as much as I can. If anyone gives me a little glimmer of hope that it's going to be useful, and I think that I think, okay, this could, as you say, you start it and you get a feel for your clients and what they're going to find useful. But I do use it a lot, and I find it to be incredibly powerful and a really great way of eliciting more detail, like you were saying earlier on, Joe. You get clarifying those best hopes and get them really clear in the client's mind and in my mind, so I can understand their best hopes as well, so we can work on those together. I think having that initial experience of being asked the miracle question has really helped me as a practitioner, being able to use it in my work.
Jason. Don't just sit there.
The thing here, and I'm enjoying the conversations.
Yeah. What's your take on the power of this question and the difference it makes to clients?
The miracle question. I mean, I love the concept of the miracle question. I love how it works and how you guide the client through this amazing day, and then them realizing that it's not actually, as Matt said, that far out of reach, that it is obtainable. But the word miracle for me, I find quite uncomfortable to use with certain clients, as you were saying before. So the way I use the miracle day is I ask the client when they're at their best, what would they be noticing when they're at their best? What would be different? And then we guide through the day as the miracle question tells us how to use, and have a walkthrough of the client's day, the morning, the afternoon, when they go to work. But instead of saying when the miracles happen is when you are at your best. If you were to wake up the next morning and you're at the best, and the problem isn't as much of a problem as it used to be, then that way I get a sense that the client is a bit more relaxed regarding the question when you say when you're at your best. But having said that, when I'm dealing with a lot of dealing with clients with anger or anxiety or depression, then using that miracle, the word miracle, helps them visualize this future that a little bit better. So I tend to use the word miracle when it comes to people with the depression, anxiety, and anger issues, When it's behavioral problems, because I work with a lot of kids at school, when it's behavioral problems at school or issues with authority like teachers or something like that, I find using the word miracle, they just think, well, it's not really a miracle. But using when you're at your best, or when a family are just not getting along, is when you're at your best as a parent, and when you're best as a child within that family dynamics. What would be happening at that point? So I like to use it when you're at your best most of the time.
So it sounds like it's whatever you call the question, it's about co-constructing a future that the client may want, even though it's not happening at the moment. What are the possibilities? So in terms of it being realistic within the client's control, and then getting that detail. Because often when I'm training this, I use the idea of New Year's resolutions, where people say they're going to do this or that, but they don't tell anyone else. They just keep it to themselves. But then if they tell someone else, and that someone else says, so how much weight do you want to lose? Oh, about a stone. So if he was to lose about a stone, what difference would that make? Well, I'd feel a bit healthier. I'd be able to play with the kids more. You're adding flesh to the bones almost. So that is that the power in this future focus question, whether we call it miracle, whether we call it when you're at your best, it's that idea that I know where I want to go, but unless I really think about how it's going to change me, how it's going to affect the people around me, it might just sit in my head and I don't really follow it through. Do you know what I mean? So regardless of what you call it, I guess Eve, regardless of what we call it, why is it such a powerful? Because I've seen it work with families, and we'll come on to that maybe, because some people use it with individuals. We as an organization use it with families. So what's the miracle within the miracle? What's the power of that future focus? Is it just adding flesh to the bones, Eve? How does it? What did you notice in your clients?
Well, good question. Is it adding? I mean, it's the vehicle for making solution-focused work start. I mean, it's the basis of solution-focused work in a way. Somebody comes in with a problem and we start talking to them about a future with a solution, but it has to be done in some way that doesn't sort of make them think, but what's wrong with this therapist? You know, it has to fit the particular person. As I talked to you, I was so impressed as I listened. I was so impressed how you all use it in such different subtle ways, and how you adapt it, which is the perfect way to do it. I mean, I'm so pleased when people use solution-focused therapy as a way for the individual who's in front of them, rather than as a way of, I don't even want to use technique, but as a way of working, a prescribed way of working. It's not that, it's our relationship with the person who just walked in. And we have we have this map that we use. And our map says we first try to see if this person can imagine a solution that works for them. So It's that's how I think about it, and I think it's just wonderful how you all use it. And adapt it. It's not a formula. That was my biggest fear, and too many people that I have worked with have this idea that you have to follow a pattern. And we're working with human beings and people who have come to us with problems and pain. And that sensitivity is the most important thing, isn't it? So the exact wording isn't important, but the overall pattern of how we work is important.
Marcos, we're working with human beings. Where does this internal sense of us as practitioners know? And I'm going to come to you in a minute, Dorothea, about the hypnotic side of this question, because I think it's got a lot of hypnotic qualities. Because I do also get that sense that this is going to fall flat. I don't know if this is actually going to work with this family. I might give it a go. I might tentatively put it in. Maybe shouldn't we just go along with thinking the client knows the answers? We'll just do the miracle question regardless. Where do we get this sense that it might not work with this person, but it might work with that person? Do you know what I mean? This is where, yeah, I don't know, Marcos. Maybe it's that wasn't a really.
Well, maybe I don't know if this is an advantage, but in my country, probably we don't have this sense of psychotherapy. It's a conversation. It's like someone is visiting me and wants to talk to me.
Yeah.
So probably it's an advantage because we're just having a conversation that could make some difference. So people is not, well, I hope that people is not giving me information for a diagnosis. They just tell me things. So I think for me, it's important to have a conversation. And if I'm going to use the miracle question, I hope it sounds like part of a conversation where we're talking about great ideas from client, from people. So that's how I try. Well, that's kind of an advantage, not being a psychotherapist, just someone who's listening to your community to talk to your dreams or a miracle.
Yeah, interesting. So it's almost, it's not a, right, I have to ask this question at this point in time. You just go with the flow of where the conversation takes it.
Yeah, because when I feel like if I have this, I don't know, role like a doctor, people will just say, will try to find the right answer, and probably they will try to impress me or to avoid some subjects. I don't know. But if I'm just visiting them and just being ready to have a conversation, yeah, it's an advantage maybe.
Yeah, brilliant. Dorothea, is there a hypnotic quality to this question?
I'm kind of not very helpful, but I'm going to say yes and no. There's one aspect of hypnosis, the guided image part of hypnosis, where yes, you're guiding from somebody through an image, and that's what we want, isn't it, from the person that we're talking to, that they guide us through their image of the best version of them, through the ordinariness of tomorrow, whatever is going on tomorrow. We can't generally change those events at all, but we can change our reactions to them. So if, as Marcus is saying, if it's a conversation and they're talking about tomorrow, the best version of them tomorrow, it should sound like a conversation, that they're having a chat. And in which case, yes, there is the guided image part of hypnosis present within that. Yeah. And I think, and I love the fact that Eve said, that it isn't sort of a template, ask it this way question, because the idea, to me, the idea is that it's the scope of the question is so amazingly varied. For some people, if we say the best version of you, their idea of what they can manage as the best version of them then becomes really personal, instead of being the best version of how someone else is managing their chemotherapy, how someone else might manage it. It's a sort of a thing you get in the world of cancer care, is that a lot of people write stories about their personal journey. And, you can read about how brave people are. And when you're in that moment and your family have given you an inspirational book of how someone else managed their journey and they're out the other side, you haven't got a view of that. You've got the best version of you. One person said to me, the best version of me is that I won't swear at anyone when they're putting the drip up. I said, would you be pleased then when I'll be over the moon? Marvelous. That's it. The miracle for me is that it gives a person their own control over the scope of their miracle. They don't have to be an idealized version of anybody, of themselves or anybody else. It's just them.
Matt, you're nodding furiously.
I just completely agree, and I just think it ties back to that idea as well that Gil was saying about giving someone agency, allowing people to sort of see, like you're saying, see the best version of themselves, and have a feeling that these are the things that I could actually change this. I've got power here, and it's giving that hope that see, this is, and only they will be able to tell you the scope of their power and what seems reasonable to them. And that's so powerful. That's such a powerful thing to experience, I think. Finding where you can affect change and finding how you can influence your own experience and your own reality, like that I think is where the power is for me. Sort of waking up to that idea that I could change this. I do have power. In many times, people feeling powerless and hopeless, and then that spark igniting, and then where it can go from there. You just need that spark, and then I want to quote a bit of Bruce Springsteen there. That
go on then.
I'm not gonna.
Dorothea put a thumbs up. You've got to now.
All right, can't start a fire without a spark. But
I love that quote.
I'm curious,
Sorry, go on, Eve.
how often do you get somebody who doesn't react to the miracle question?
That's a good question. How often does that happen, guys?
And then what do we do?
Ooh. Eve, we love you.
You've got us all looking up, Eve. You've got us all looking up. I guess I'm going to jump in now. I guess I don't jump into the miracle question until maybe session 2. I might jump in, with the instead question. And so if you were able to do that, describe what that would look like. So let's just say you did it tomorrow, what that would look like. So I kind of do it that way. But I usually ask, if I'm going to ask the miracle question to whatever the truest form is, I usually do that at session 2 or 3, because then I know what my client may respond to and the way that I will ask it. So it doesn't usually fail when I do, but that's only because I've allowed myself time to get to know my client and the language that might be appropriate. A lot of our clients have mental health issues, autism, ADHD, whatever it might be. Yeah. So I have to pick and choose the words I'm using. But throughout any conversation from session one, I use the miracle through. So let's just say that happened tomorrow. And when you have it through that context, that conversation, it tends not to fail.
Yeah, absolutely, but you know, most people who learn it or teach it will talk about using it as a beginning and in a way of setting goals.
I would like to jump in on that. Is that all right?
Yeah.
To answer your question, Steve, it's I've had a client where I've used a miracle and I use it in its truest form. If you were to go to sleep tonight and the whole conversation around that and wake up tomorrow morning, this miracle happened and you didn't know. It started off well, but then when it started interacting with other people, it's happened once or twice where that miracle wasn't a miracle anymore, because in their mind, those other people didn't, in their mind, they hadn't changed the way they responded. And then when they start looking at that miracle, they say, well, it would be a miracle if my mum wouldn't behave in this way when I wake up. My mum's not there to respond back, but in their mind, it would be a miracle. And they don't feel that that's going to work. So then their response will end up being the same. So the way I go around it is that's where I flip it to, okay, so if you're at your best, how would you respond to your mum in that way? If your mum did answer back rudely, let's say, for example, for this case, if you're at your best, when you're at your best, what would you be saying to her? And then just flip it around and try and go along that narrative. And then set up the day by the fact that they've responded in a way that's going to get a positive outcome from the mum, then that will change their whole mindset for the rest of the day on how they can actually start being at their best. And then it doesn't become a miracle anymore.
But I think it's what Dorothea said. I think it was you, Dorothea. That's a lovely Dorothea said before about, so if I'm going to use a miracle day, I'll set the context. So, humor me. I'm going to ask you a question. I just want you to humor me. Everything else around you is exactly the same, but your reaction to it is different.
Yeah, there you go.
The sun, the sun's not going to come out. It's winter, and it's not going to be 20 degrees just because you want it to be, because it's your, it's your miracle day. If it's raining, it's raining. The traffic's the same. The miles, the bus is the same. Everything's the same, but your reaction is different. So I think it's very important to set that scene. Yes.
Yeah.
For me, anyway.
Well, Joe said something that Joe said stuck in my mind about using the miracle day. It's your story to tell, Joe, but I remind you, it's to deal with tickets to Australia or something like that, right?
Oh,
that's always stuck in my head, and it's always niggling at the back.
I think the majority of the times that I've used it, it's actually been quite. The description has been quite normal, almost mundane, because a lot of the families that we work with will be in conflict. There will be, arguments going left, right, and centre, and it's almost like, so when I wake him up, he won't tell me to blah blah expletive. So on this day, what would he say instead? He'd say, "Okay, Mum, I'll get up in a minute." And if he reacted in that way, how would you respond? It's this interactional thing. When you have a family around you, and you start with, so who's the first person to wake up in the morning? Let's set it in their real life setting. Who gets up first? Oh, it's normally Mum or Dad. Okay, what would tell you that a miracle had happened this day? And they would maybe make a description, and they would say, for example, when I wake up, so-and-so, he'd say, "Yes, Mum, I'll be up in a minute." And then they'd be up and then we'd have breakfast together. When the child's in the room with you, it's really, the client doesn't have to imagine what someone else is going to say, because that person's in the room. So if your mum woke you up and you said you were getting up in a minute and Mum was calm and there wasn't any shouting, would that please you? Yeah, it would. So how might you respond? And you get this lovely dance between 3 or 4 different members of the family where they all jump in depending on what time they get up. So the parents say, I'll go down to the kitchen and Johnny will come in, and how will Johnny know that this miracle day had happened? He would smile, okay, and if he smiled, what would you do? I'd smile back. Johnny, would that be something you'd like to see? Yeah, it would. So if mum smiled back, it's beautiful. When it works, it is magic because everyone's involved and everyone's there.
I mean, what you're doing, using the relationship question with miracle question, is contextualizing their desired change. All behavior is contextual. So you contextualize it in a new and different way, which really is coming from them. Dorethea referred to guided imagery, whereas I see it as unguided imagery. You're asking questions where they have to create an image in their mind to answer it. So by doing that, you're activating new neural pathways to try to bring the brain into this. So by asking new and different questions, you get questions that get them to have to think of something new and different, you're activating new neural pathways, of creating and strengthening them. I'd also want to come back to your question, Joe, about whether it's hypnotic or not. And I think it depends on how you ask the miracle question. When you look at videos of Insoo Berg and Steve DeShazer, I think the way they ask it has a hypnotic quality to it. You know, one is it's their tone of voice, and also how they pause at the end of every sentence to see if the client's following. That pause, the tone of voice, the pace of it has a hypnotic quality to it. And you know, we've acknowledged how Milt Erickson's work was the inspiration for this. And I've read where in the last 3 or 4 decades of Erickson's life, most of the time he did not use hypnosis per se. It was much more conversational. And so I think the miracle question, and really actually all of solution-focused therapy, but especially the miracle question, can be done where it has a hypnotic quality to it. And I think that also has a positive impact on one's sort of neurophysiology.
Yeah, and you just see when you start and when you can almost sense the clients envisioning what they're talking about and the lift in the room and the smiles, and it's just like, wow, this is amazing. And sometimes it's interesting what Eve said about maybe practitioners going in too early, or because I know from some practitioners that I've been trained by, it's almost the quicker you can get into the miracle question, the better, because you're going to get all the other bits around it. So if someone says, we just want to be happier as a family, I still don't know what happier for them as a family means to them. But I could say, okay, so if you woke up tomorrow and you're all happier as a family, what would you notice? What difference would it make? What would others do? So some will go in straight away and some will almost test that ground. Is that, I don't know, does that make sense? Can you just go into the miracle question from the client's best hope straight away? I want to understand myself better without being curious about what understanding themselves better means to that person. Could you just say, right, so if you woke up tomorrow and you understood yourself better, and get around it that way? Does that make sense, guys? Rather than doing all the groundwork, could we just go into, yeah, you woke up tomorrow, you understood yourself a bit better. How would you know? What would be the first sign? Who else would notice? What difference would it make to them, to you?
There's no way of every single session is going to be different. There's no way of describing when to ask it or when it's right or when it's wrong. And I mean, that's what our students do. They sort of have a pattern of asking questions, but seasoned people like you, it's a feeling. When do you ask it? When don't you ask it? You don't ask it till the third session. You want to establish a relationship and trust. It's, you know,
Yeah. I mean,
Of the videos I have of Insu and Steve, one video, they might ask the miracle question 5 minutes into the session. But another video, they might ask it 30 minutes into the session. And I have one video of Insu where she never asked the miracle question.
of course.
yeah.
Yeah. And Steve had a way of, I mean, he spoke this way. I don't know, did any of you ever meet Steve personally?
I met him once.
Okay. He had a way of speaking very slowly and deliberately and thoughtfully. He didn't convert, he didn't speak quickly. So in a session, he really, he was really slow. And as you've seen his videos, you know, and sometimes he'd look up to the sky and think, and, you know, it was a kind of a theatrical performance. And some people thought that this was part of what you had to learn to do, which, you know, at the beginning, people didn't realize you could make this your own. So.
Can I ask, Eve, how did you make the miracle question your own?
As needed. You know, I didn't have a pattern. I had to have a feel for the person who came in and how they were responding to me. And if they happened to be an artist, I would ask a question in terms of miracle in a very different way than if they were an engineer. So, you know, all of you, it's obviously have all this knowledge, but that's how I would have done it, very individually to the client. Of course, it's hard to teach beginners to do that. But you know, if you're experienced, then and if you're good, like all of you are, it's so wonderful for you to invite me to hear all of you talk so expertly about solution-focused therapy, because many times in the United States, it's taught in 2 or 3 workshops, and then you see the videos and you go, you know, so, you know, it's just so gratifying to see this wonderful method being used so expertly by people all over the world. And, you know, in the United States, it's not being used very much anymore. Everything is CBD.
CBT, was it, Eve? Yeah. And that's the same with our National Health Service. CBT is the main method of delivery because of whoever decided, whoever gave it some kind of official stamp of approval. We are honoured to have you here. You know, absolutely amazing. And that it's this, and like you said when you were training, Eve, I guess you try to train it in the best way that you can, and you give them a list of possible questions they may answer, and if they come up across this, maybe ask this. But it sounds like from what everyone's saying, there's a gut feeling. Is it a gut feeling? Is it a feeling that you get from experience? How do you train that? Does that just come with hours of practice?
I think some people have the ability or the talent, to call it what you may, and some people can train for a long, long time and not have that rhythm of how to join somebody.
Yeah.
You know, everything takes talent. So why not
Yeah.
what we do?
Some
Yeah.
therapists are better than others.
It's true, Gil. Yeah, yeah. I guess it was.
And the research shows that regardless of therapeutic approach, some therapists are just better than others. Some CBT therapists are better than others. Some solution-focused therapists are better than others.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dorothea, you had your hand up a little while. I'm curious to hear what you had to
Oh,
say.
right. No, I was actually really enjoying you putting into words what I was trying to say, Gil. The guided image bit is the client guiding it. That's why I sort of said yes and no to the hip bit. I'm not. I think maybe what makes people good at this is having the courage to let the client guide the image and not feel that you have to steer it. You know, and not interrupt and like really listen and not have a preconceived idea of how you hope it will turn out. You know, quite often for me, there's a time pressure. You know, somebody needs to have their chemo or there's some sort of time pressure. They need to go in the MRI and they're claustrophobic or something. And having, you know, the ability not to, or the willpower maybe not to bring that deadline into the conversation in any way at all.
One of my therapeutic mantras in teaching and training and consulting solution-focused therapy is let the questions do the work.
Yeah, I like that.
So can I Aisha had a client, and this was quite interesting because it made me think about the way we asked the question in the miracle question. She had a client, and I don't know if you remember this, Aisha, the young person was on the autistic spectrum. So Aisha did the miracle question, what would happen tomorrow, da, da, da. When they came back the following week, the mum reported that evening after the session was a nightmare, the worst the child had ever been. But in the morning, he was a different person because of his autism. What he'd heard was, I don't have to actually do the miracle till tomorrow morning. So tonight I can do what I like. And I thought, wow, where do we go with this? So maybe it's starting.
Language is so important, but that's why you need to get to know your client.
No, but what it made me think is, why do we wait until the morning? So why don't we say to clients, when you leave our office today, on your journey home, all your problems will have gone. What would be different about your journey home, your meal this evening, the way you go to bed tonight? And this continues tomorrow. Do you see what I mean? Why do we wait till the morning?
Go on, Marcos. Why shouldn't we wait until the morning, maybe?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a very good question. I think probably if the client is going through a very hard time, and probably many people has I don't know, tell her that he cannot do anything, that he has some kind of, I don't know, sickness, mental illness, I don't know. Maybe saying tomorrow, imagine if a miracle happened tomorrow, it would be a relief in tough times, in very situations. I don't know, probably.
Yeah. I don't, go on.
I had a client yesterday actually who was diagnosed with so many different things by the age of 6. And she lives her life through this diagnosis. So every behavioral challenge that she faces or every decision she makes, she puts it into, well, that's because of my OCD. That's because of my autism. That's because of my this. That's because of that. so I kind of asked her if we were to just put those labels aside, let's just imagine we're going to put those labels aside, just start visualizing it for me. We're going to put those labels aside, and I'm going to talk to you just for 30 seconds as you without someone with OCD and anxiety, and everything else obviously, but OCD, anxiety, and she was so scared because she doesn't remember a life without having OCD, so she doesn't know what it's like. And I instantly thought, why did I ask that question? It's my first session with her. And then I realized why I did it. I was quite excited because I thought this is a challenge. And I kind of made it about me and not about the client. I saw a challenge in front of me and I thought, right, okay, I'm gonna really, really home in and help this young lady. She was 17. And then I thought, why did I do that? She's not ready for that because she doesn't know life without. So the miracle question, forget it. No way. So then we kind of moved on to look for moments when she's feeling less anxious and how to look after. And even that was quite daunting because her life is made up of all these diagnoses. So did I do the right thing? Absolutely not. Did I learn from it? Yes. And then I kind of I apologized. I said, you know what? I don't think we're ready for that. And I shouldn't have asked you that question. So let's just backtrack, if that's okay. And I'm going to ask you another silly question, if that's all right. And it turned into this lovely conversation where she felt quite comfortable to talk about, because that's what she wanted to talk about, her OCD, her anxiety, her autism, her ADHD. And she wanted to describe them to me. But actually what ended up happening, because I was now listening to understand her rather than to respond, was I was getting to know all these different masks that she was trying to manage. And it was very, very interesting. But on reflection, I realized I went in too soon. It was the wrong thing to do, which is something I'm usually quite careful with. I just got a little bit excited, I think. So anyone that's watching, do be careful. Don't make the mistake that I made. I mean, has there ever been
another one on that note? Another one of my mantras is one of the best ways to do effective brief therapy is to go slow at first. And that gets at what you're talking about, Aisha, I think, is really get that connection, that person-to-person connection first. It's the therapeutic relationship that is the foundation for everything else that follows.
But then what is brief? Because a brief therapy for each client will look quite different.
Right, yeah.
Which is why I don't use the word brief.
Yeah, it goes back, what is the client a customer for? And you want to find that out. Take time to find that out.
What do you think, Eve? I can see you not agreeing with me.
I don't think, I think the brief, that came from MRI. We were going to do something like the MRI model, which was brief, and it sort of got slipped in, and some of us used the brief. In my book, I didn't use that in the title. I used solution focus. And a lot of people don't. It certainly is briefer than other models. And I guess the average is maybe 8 to 12 sessions for most people. But I think to think of it as brief can be disruptive of the process.
I agree, yeah.
I agree. I wouldn't like clients to hear it's solution-focused brief therapy because it almost feels like a fast-track way of being supported.
Actually, you know, let's just have therapy.
Yeah.
Solution-focused therapy.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. All of a sudden, by introducing the idea that it will be brief, you're putting pressure on everyone. I feel that right. Let's get this sorted now. Let's do it. Yeah, crack on. No time. And that is a completely unnecessary and unwelcome sort of
a lot of
feeling to bring in.
A lot of these terms have come out of insurance needs. Especially in our country, you have, I don't know how it works with national health insurance, but with us and private insurance companies, there's been a lot of pressure to be brief, and so that spells it.
I think that, oh, sorry, Jason.
No, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I think that's something to do with as well. I think CBT, that there's so many very structured CBT courses. I think that's a reason why it's been preferred over here by the NHS, because they can say this will be 6 sessions and that will be it, and that is, and we can follow that. So it's very easy to prescribe that and keep a track on the structure of what services you're offering, which is, again, it's silly, but yeah.
I just feel that
CBT became famous in the United States, or what became the preferred method, is because CBT is an individual treatment. The diagnosis is for an individual. Solution-focused therapy is an interactional model. And that was, at the beginning, was very difficult to bill to insurance. And therefore, as time went on and CBT became better known, the fact that it was an individual treatment and easier for insurance companies, that's, I don't know if you agree with me.
Jason?
So, I mean, all these things really aren't theoretical issues, they're financial issues.
Yeah.
No, I mean, what I was going to say was with when reading the books about brief therapy and whatnot, and from what I've experienced, I just feel that because it's so condensed and so quick that you lack that personal approach, building that rapport with your client as well, because you're coming straight in with the best hopes. There's no introductions. I don't feel there's any sort of connection between the client and the practitioner, along with brief. So it's just so quick. And yes, the results are there and it happens. And you can solve people's issues in a brief amount of time. But that connection between the practitioner and the client, the rapport that you can build, I find just lacks a little bit with the brief, way of working.
Right. Okay. Brief, as in
the solution-focused brief therapy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And there is a lot about that. And Gil's said this loads of times, and I think it as practitioners, if your client feels comfortable with you and you've taken that time to get to know them, even if it is about them telling you for an hour all their woes, and you're empathetic and listening, you build that rapport, and that's where most of the change happens, regardless of the model, right, Gil? Because you've told me this loads of times, and I don't doubt you. I think the research shows that. It's building that rapport. It's letting the client know that you're there to listen. Sometimes I don't want you to say anything. Just shut up and listen to what I've got to say.
Be there in the moment.
Yeah.
To ask questions of them, to be curious about them as persons. And so in my mind, that might mean spending the whole first session giving them the opportunity to tell you their problem-saturated story. And I think the research shows it's important that clients feel, one, safe, but also that you care about them as a person. And what better way to do that than to give them the opportunity to tell you their story to the extent that they want to. Some people feel the need, some less so. They say, oh, I've told my story so many times. I don't want to tell it again. So that's, so you just have to fit your approach in the beginning to where they're coming from at that time, but being curious about them and showing that you genuinely care about them as people. And then that's the foundation for everything else.
Yeah.
And what a lovely summary that was, Gil. Thank you.
Can I just ask? Sorry,
yeah.
Ice, can I just jump in? I'm not sure if it was a quote I heard from Eve, but saying, use the method you use is important, but that comes secondary to you should be there as a as a therapist first. And the was that you, Eve?
That was Eve, yeah.
And it's kind of it's
a human being.
exactly,
yeah,
and that is the most important thing. What we fail to take that seriously. The rest is immaterial, really. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're falling on the first hurdle, if you're not gonna treat the person as the human being that presents in front of you, that's okay, who are you? Like, let's give them the respect to start there.
Let me am I correct, Eve, that what we've been talking about here the last little bit, you cover well in your book on the role of emotion in solution-focused therapy. Is that correct?
That's what I tried to do, because I wasn't going to write a book. And then more and more books were coming out that were so techniquey. And I said, before I retire, I have got to express my own point of view and just put it out there. And
Joe, it's just for anybody who watches this, buy Eve's book and read it.
Yes.
It's a classic. It's great.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I'm
glad it's relevant still, and that it's not something that went out of style.
And I remember when we first. Yeah, sorry, go on. I was just going to say, when we first spoke to Eve about our first chat with Eve, and she was saying that there was something about that the change in the client was within the conversation, not so much the end of session summary and the tasks. That the change was happening within that conversation rather than the tasks that we gave the clients at the end. And there was a blog on Sunday from a certain organisation that I won't name that almost was saying exactly the same thing, which you've kind of been saying for years, that it's the conversation we have, not the summary, maybe not even the compliments, or what if you continue to do X, Y, and Z, but within that conversation. And I think what Marcus was saying earlier, it's almost like a conversation and not an interview. That conversation flows freely, and that's where the client starts to think about, wow, I didn't, even if they don't say it out loud, wow, I didn't think of that point of view. Maybe that's something I need to think about.
I think it's something as a therapy develops, it goes through various changes, and it's like anything else, it develops, and it seems so unnecessary after a while to give tasks and summaries, and
Yeah.
were just as good.
So for me, the miracle question is being positively curious about life for them, their hopeful future, however soon that might be. It's that lovely conversation that love does, almost as if you're speaking with a friend and being really curious. Oh my God, how would you do that? That's amazing. How would you do that? Age appropriate, person appropriate, whatever it might be, don't rush into it is what I would say. But is there any other advice anyone would give as a very quick summary before we draw to a close?
Another critical piece are the follow-up questions. Getting, as Joe said, putting flesh on the bones, getting behavioral specific behavioral indicators of the miracle picture and the miracle day.
Yeah, and sometimes it's the context, isn't it? Sometimes part of our lives are great, but there's other parts that aren't. And if the parts of your life that are giving you the most problem were like this, what difference would that make? So it's behavioral, it's situational, it's how like I say, when you do it with a family and they're all there and they're all laughing and smiling and telling how they would react to the other person, it's just magical. There's no other way to describe it.
Marcus, what advice would you give to anybody who wants to or is exploring the miracle day with a family?
Well, I don't know if this is an advice, but I think thanks to you, thanks to listen to all of you, this belief is stronger in me, you know, that every session is different and every miracle question should be a special miracle question for every client. So this is a challenging idea for me, but yeah, every miracle question is a unique question every day with every client.
100%. Dorothea?
I think I would say trust the client's version of it, you know, to just really go with what they're saying. Obviously, you know, like Gil was saying, concrete observable behavior, you know, to flesh it out, but trust them with it. You know, the best version of them is what they're saying. It doesn't need any hints or suggestions.
Jason, do you have anything?
I'm just literally just listening to everything that's been said and taking it all in, because yeah, I'm just speaking. For once, I'm actually speechless, because just listening to what you're all saying, it's just absorbing it from like a sponge. So yeah,
You're just agreeing with everyone then?
I'm just agreeing. I mean, I'm just honoured to have you all here, just listening to being part of this meeting. Just
I'm
hearing
just
what you guys have
absorbing
got.
it all too. I hear you, Jason. I'm absorbing it all too. I'm there with you.
What
So
about you, Matt? Sorry, Joe.
Quiet.
Yeah, I feel that, yeah, I'm here mainly learning tonight. I'm at the start of, relatively at the start of my journey as a practitioner compared to everyone else here on this chat. But I think as someone who first came across it and experienced it on the other side of the question, to really never underestimate the power of it, because it can be transformational, and it can be very miraculous. So yeah, don't underestimate it ever, as I'm sure no one would. But yeah, it's brilliant. It can be brilliant.
Any words of wisdom for us, Eve? Because we're all sitting here looking at you going, help us, Eve, help us, help us. Teach us, Eve, teach us.
I just feel very grateful to have been invited, and I am so impressed with what everybody says and does. I'm so happy and proud that what we started in 1978 is being used so beautifully to help people. That's all I have to say. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Eve. Thank you so much.
But we have come to the end of our chat. Can I just ask everyone to just stay put for a couple of minutes while we say goodbyes? But to everybody else, we are sorry for the technical difficulty, but we got there in the end. And I will find a way of uploading this onto YouTube ASAP, and let you guys know when that is done. But for now, and I'm looking around, I don't know if you can see my eyes moving because I'm trying to work out what I'm doing. For now, goodbye from all of us, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening.
Thank you.